Hi guys, and welcome to Red Wolf's Randomness, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a middle grade books review. And if you don't know what the word middle grade book is, it's just a book for an age between 8 to 12 years old, but really anybody can read a middle grade book. And before we get started, these are just the middle grade books that I've read. I know there's tons of middle grade books out there that are absolutely amazing, but these are just the ones that I've read. So when reviewing these books, I will have a little timestamp for each breakdown in the book for the age range that I think, the violence, and the stuff that would be violent in the books, and what I would feel if it's like an adventure lover, you'd like this book. And I would say how many books there is in the series, and how many stars I give. So I will put all of the timestamps so you guys can see all that. So let's get started. The first book let's do is Warrior Cat Series. It's actually the book that got me into reading, because I actually didn't read a lot until I started reading Warrior Cats really, and then I started really getting into reading. I think Warrior Cats is great for like 12 to 14 range. I think as you get older, the book should be good for you as well, because I think they get a little bit older with you. But I feel like 12 years old is a good first starting point for the books. Of course, I read them when I was a little bit older, but you can read them any age really. You could be like 20 and still read them and they'd be interesting. So this is just for me. I said mild to medium violence because there is cat death and cats fighting and cats get seriously hurt, and it explains it. But that's just for me. Some people may be able to handle more or handle less. So that's just my overall. And the genre of books that Warrior Cats is fantasy, fiction, adventure. So if you love cats or any of those genres, this book would definitely be good for you as well. And if you were to read every book in the Warrior Cats series, there's actually 97 books in the whole Warrior Cats series, including novellas and all sorts of different types of books that's in the series. So that is an incredibly large series to read. My overall rating for the Warrior Cats series was 3.5 stars. Next up is my personal favorite, Keeper of the Lost Cities. After I read a few of the Warrior Cats books, I actually moved on to Keeper of the Lost Cities, and it's one of my personal favorites. And for the age range, I would say from 10 to 16 years old, you could read it and you'd really love it, or any age really. Keeper of the Lost Cities is great for fantasy and fiction lovers, and it also has the found family trope, and it's a little bit of a mystery, and it has a lot of adventure in it as well. I especially love the found family part of it because that was one of my favorite tropes in books, so I really love that part of the book. And there's also no cuss words, which I think is great, and it's a large book series. I think there's 10 books in the series, and Sharing Messenger is actually coming out with another book. So I would say mild violence because there's just fighting with the villain in the book. The villain group is the Never Seen, and they fight back and forth with that group, and I would say it's pretty mild violence. My rating for the Keeper of the Lost Cities book series would be 5 stars. The next book series is Wild Rescuers. I actually think I read this before the Warrior Cat series, but I really didn't get into reading. I just kind of read it here and there. So I would say the Wild Rescuers age range could be 8 to 12 years old plus, because it has no violence, and it's a perfect book series just to relax and read. If you love adventure books that are fantasy and fiction but have no violence, Wild Rescuers is definitely the book for you. And the Wild Rescuers is definitely great for animal lovers, especially wolves. If you love wolves or just animals in general, I definitely recommend the book series. There's 4 books in the Wild Rescuer series, and I would say I'd give it 3.7 stars. Now for the Saraphina series, I actually forget when I read this. I think I read this sometime after Warrior Cats. I don't know if it was after Keeper of the Lost Cities or before. I think it was before actually. I think the age range for the Saraphina series should be 12 to 13. And if I haven't already mentioned this, I will put the Goodreads age range as well. I'll put that up there with mine. This is just my age range of what I think, but I will also put the Goodreads up there as well. When reading this book, it was a little bit out of my comfort zone because it was a historical fiction, but it was actually pretty cool because it was about the Biltmore estate. And if you love historical fiction, I actually would think this book is really great for you because it was very interesting. It was kind of like a mystery almost. I would say throughout the series, there's probably medium violence because there's a few things that is very descriptive of just the creepy things that are going around the Biltmore house that she has to figure out what's going on. And it was kind of creepy for me when I read at night. So that's just me. The genre of the Saraphina series is mystery. I would say a little bit of horror. Maybe not horror, just kind of creepy in a sense. Historical fiction and fantasy. I don't know why, but this is like so funny. I have like a little bit of notes with like the age range that I thought and like if there's cuss words or like the genres. And then I put under the Saraphina series, if you're easily creeped out, this book is not for you. So maybe take that into account. And there was 4 books in the Saraphina series and I gave it 2 stars. Now guys, don't hate on me on this final book. I'm gonna give this series a second chance because I've only read the first book. So this is just a review on the first book in the series. So I am gonna give it a second chance, but I did not like the first book. But here is the False Prince. I literally have like the tiniest little bit of notes on the False Prince and then like so many on the other books. So let's just see what happens. And the age range for the False Prince I would say is 13 to 14. The False Prince is actually a fast-paced series. It actually went by pretty quickly, which was nice. I like the fast pace of it, which was nice. And there's medium violence and like dungeons, like Sage spent a lot of time in a dungeon, and then Latimer, a character, was murdered. I did not like that part. And the genre of the False Prince is fantasy fiction, action, and adventure. And there's 5 books in the book series, and I gave it a 2.5 star rating, but I'm gonna like try the book series again because I only read the first book, so I'm gonna try to read the second book and maybe I will raise my rating. And there's also some middle grade books that are also really great I've heard great things about but I've not read yet. It's the Wingfeather Saga and Percy Jackson. I've heard great things about them but I've just not got around to reading them yet. And if you're still here at the end of the video, thank you so much for continuing to watch my first long form video. And I hope you guys like it. This is just my first video, so I still need to improve on my book reviews a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. This might seem a little weird, but I always do it and it's always very helpful. You can go to this website called Common Sense and it's like a bunch of different book reviews on everything, or you can look up the book name and put trigger warnings and it will tell you like absolutely everything that's in the book. And some stuff that doesn't bother other people that they probably won't mention may bother you, it may not bother you. I just always think it's a good idea because most people don't mention everything that could potentially bother somebody, so it's always good to look it up.